Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for choosing to share your lunch break with Richard and I. Really appreciate you giving up the time to join us on today's webinar. It is about vision, purpose and values. And I think we'll probably get started, just let any other people join us as we go along. As always, we're recording these webinars so that there'll be a copy available to you guys afterwards. So if you haven't managed to join us in real time, you can watch this again later. And if there's anything that you've missed whilst we've been talking, you can always go back and have a re-listen. So why don't we get started? Vision, purpose and values is a webinar that I feel really passionately about. It's something that I perhaps was a slightly later convert to in my business. We did a big process within Panthera around this in the last couple of years, and we found it really transformational and powerful. So it's something I'm really pleased to be sharing with other business owners today. So let's get ourselves started. So your moderator today is Richard. I'm just going to let him take over from here.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard. I'm a client account manager at Panthera Accounting, and I'll be your moderator today. For those of you that are new to the webinar environment, these are the Zoom settings. Let's take a closer look at the webinar controls. Towards your bottom left, you'll have audio settings where you can have a look. If there's any questions or any issues with your audio, you should be able to test your speakers here. Towards the middle, there's a Q&A. If you submit any questions during the webinar, I'll be able to ask them to Tori at the end of the webinar, or if I can ask them while we're going along, I'll do so. And at the bottom right, there's a leave meeting button. If at any stage you need to leave, please click this leave meeting button. And as Tori mentioned, there'll be a recording of the webinar after it's finished. I'd now like to introduce today's presenter, Tori Wagg, Director at Panthera Accounting. Welcome, Tori.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Richard. And I'm really pleased to have Richard here to help us with the moderation. So if there are any questions that come up in the chat, he'll be able to help us as we go through. So I always start these webinars with a thought of the day. So today's thought is culture eats strategy for breakfast, and that's from Peter Drucker. No matter how great your strategy is, if you don't have the right culture in your workplace, you simply aren't going to get great results. And the reason that I bring this forward, even for businesses where there's just the business owner in the business, so they don't have a big team, culture is still really, really important, even in a one-man band. And that's why we've brought this for all of our SME clients and other business owners today. I really want us to think about what that culture means in your business. So today's webinar is all about the 3 most influential drivers of a positive culture, and those are your vision, your purpose and your core values. And we're going to go through those 3 items today. So before we get stuck in, just want to throw in, we always do our usual disclaimer. The information in this webinar is all educational and it's general in nature, so it's no substitute for having tailored advice specific to your particular circumstances. All that means is if you want to talk about this a bit deeper, we're always at the end of the phone, so pick it up and we can really get into some detail with you guys. So let's have a look at what we've got on the agenda for today. We're going to quickly overview the 3 cornerstones of culture, and then we're going to delve deeper on how to develop your vision, purpose and core values, and how these culminate in an important business asset, which is your culture card. Now, I don't know if you've come across this concept. We're going to dig into that a little bit later in the webinar. So make sure you submit your questions as we go, and we'll get them all answered at the end. So why is workplace culture so important? Studies have shown that businesses with a great culture and an engaged team significantly outperform those without. Your vision, your purpose, and your values are 3 key elements of culture. When you spend time developing these and sharing them with your team, and your team in this context may not be employees, it may mean those people that work alongside you. So perhaps your coaches, maybe even with your family and perhaps with your suppliers. So it may be that you outsource your marketing, for example, in a smaller business. Those people are still part of your culture, and it's really important that they get it. But when we talk about sharing them with your team, we're ensuring that your team truly believe and live into your culture, and you create a sense of belonging for your team and your customers and build alignment through your business. So you can use these cornerstones as a filter for decision making, recruitment, ensuring customers are the right fit for your business. There are loads of different areas where culture can be really important. Let's have a closer look at each one of those, and then I'll show you how you can pull them together into a culture card to support your buy-in. So the first cornerstone of culture is vision. According to research published in the Harvard Business Review, evaluating tens of thousands of working people around the world, effectively enlisting the hearts and minds of your organization in a shared vision of the future is what differentiates leaders from non-leaders. So in short, companies without an effective strategic vision struggle to provide a meaningful context for their goals, strategies, and implementation plans. And this is why having this vision is really important, even if it's just you and your business, because it sets you into that leadership role. And when we're thinking about the hats that we wear in our business, and if you've done the 10 hats process with us, or you've seen that webinar, you'll be aware that as business owners, we often wear multiple hats in our business. This is all about putting on your leadership hat and really focusing on how you can help to build some process into your business ready for it to grow. Jim Collins, a celebrated author, speaker, and consultant, developed the concept of your vision comprising your core ideology and your envisioned future. And you can see that on this yin-yang symbol that we've got on the slide. To break this down even further, your core ideology consists of your core purpose and your core values. It's the enduring character of your business, a consistent identity that transcends product or market life cycles, management fads, and individual leaders. Your envisioned future translates your core ideology into a tangible goal. So it's made up of a 10 to 30 year BHAG and vivid descriptions. And you may be wondering what on earth the BHAG is. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. Some people have heard of this term. It's something really big and concrete for you. In other words, a goal so big that you're forced to dramatically improve, or you won't be able to achieve it. So if we're thinking of that in terms of something like turnover, it's not saying we're going to grow by 7% each year. It's saying we're going to grow by 100% each year. It's a big goal like that. It should be a goal which may only have a 50 to 70% chance of achievement, but one which you truly believe that you can achieve. And that bit's really important. You've got to believe in it. It should be concise and also easy to understand. Vivid descriptions are essential to make your BHAG tangible. They should paint a picture of what it will look like to achieve your BHAG. And to use Jim Collins's words, your envisioned future should be so exciting in its own right that it would continue to keep the organization motivated, even if the leaders who set the goal disappeared. And that's the really important bit here. So it's imagining your business without you still being driven by that amazing vision there within your business. Each part of this is essential for success. So without progression towards a desired future state, your purpose and values become meaningless. But your future vision can't be achieved without the stable foundation created by your purpose and your values. And that's how these things fit together to create the culture that we need in your business. So how do you articulate your vision? Well, here are some really important guidelines for developing a clear vision statement. And this is derived from the Change Factory. So the first one is to write it in the present tense, not the future tense, so that it gets really grounded in what you're doing. You're going to summarize your vision in one powerful phrase, and you're going to describe an outcome, so the best outcome you can possibly achieve. You're going to use unambiguous language, which is really easy to understand, so that anybody could read your vision and know what you're talking about straight away. You're going to evoke emotion, so it should be obviously and unashamedly passionate. And that's a funny thing to hear from accountants. We're not known for being really emotional, but it's that emotional connection that you need in your vision to really make it stick. And it must help to build the same picture in people's minds. And what we mean there is that if anybody read your vision, they'd be able to get the picture that you're expecting in their mind. So it has to be really clear. So here are some examples of some really great vision statements. So we've got Tesla as the first one there. Tesla's vision is to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. Nike, their vision is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world with a little star. And they've defined an athlete as, if you have a body, you're an athlete. That's really, as an emotionally charged sentence, isn't it? And that little star really brings in something very modern to the way that they put their vision statement together. And LinkedIn has to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. That's a big, big vision, isn't it? It takes the whole world in. So the vision statements we've seen here are for really big companies, ones that you're probably all aware of. Our vision statement, I haven't popped it into this slide, but our vision statement is, let me just go back 2 seconds. It's just that, it's just here. So at Panthera, our vision statement is to create a world where small business owners thrive. It's really short. It's large. It talks about the whole world of small business owners, and you can understand what thriving might look like. And it took us a little bit of time to come up with this. We did it as part of our core values work. So we're going to talk a little bit more into that in just 1 second. The second cornerstone of culture is your purpose. So your purpose is why your business exists for your customers, summarized into something like 7 words. If you can do it in less, that's wonderful, sometimes a little bit longer. Or simply put, it's your why. So of course your business exists to make a profit, but that's not your purpose. Your purpose is your reason for being, not a goal or a business strategy. It's extremely important because, as Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And you may have come across that phrase elsewhere. And that leads me on to the golden circle. So to better understand your purpose, let's look at the golden circle. This is created by Simon Sinek. So most businesses first describe what it is that they do. They start with their what, and then they say, how do they do it? And they often fail to talk about why the business exists for their customers. It's really important to communicate from the inside out rather than from the outside in, because this is how you build an emotional connection with your customers. So how do you describe your why or your core purpose? This should be something like a 5 to 15 word phrase defining why you exist. When you've got a clear purpose that your team understands, it's much easier to achieve alignment of thinking. For example, our purpose, and I'll just whiz through this slide so you can see our purpose, is on a poster that we have up in the office. And our purpose says, to help our clients to thrive so that they can achieve their goals. And for us, this means that we know exactly where to focus our time and energy on our own clients. And that's why it's our clients in the beginning there. And we put our clients front and center of all of our decisions so that we can really focus in on them. And then on both their business and their personal finances, because one can't thrive without the other. And we also have a real focus on what our clients' goals are. You can see that's the last word in our purpose. We can't help them to succeed if we don't know what success looks like specifically for them. When our team live into this purpose, we're able to provide even greater success for our clients and our team. So I'm just going to take us back to that golden circle. So we talked about the what, the how, the why, and we'd come here to our purpose. So when you've articulated your purpose, you can then talk about the how, your unique selling point or brand promise. And then when customers understand your why and your how, you can start to discuss the what, the products or services you offer to achieve your why. And can you see how that's very different from the first way we looked at the golden circle, starting from the outside and coming in? When we start from our purpose and work back out, we've got the emotional connection right at the core of what's going on. And it's really important to be able to share that with your customers so that they get that connection with you, but also with the people that work alongside you, either your team, your suppliers, or your sort of key personnel, and also for your family. You know, the people that support you as a business owner very often are the people that you live with and that are in your home. If they understand the why of your business, it really helps them to get that buy-in to where you're heading. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's what is at the core of the golden circle. Here are 5 characteristics of a good purpose. So it must be inspiring to your whole team. Everyone on your team should not only know your purpose, they should believe in it. It must be as valid in 100 years as it is now. I really like this one. It helps you to step away from something that's very in the moment, and to make sure that the way you've worded it would be understood by somebody 100 years ago or 100 years in the future. And it helps you to make sure that you're not too specifically tied to specific services that you might be offering just now, because they could become irrelevant and then your purpose seems to get lost a little bit. So making sure that you're not tying into things that are temporal. It should help you consider what you could be doing but aren't. What products or services could you offer which will help you live into your purpose while staying relevant to what customers want? And by making sure that you don't have that connection in your purpose to the things you're doing right now, it allows you to always come back to this question: does it fit into our purpose? So that we can make sure we're offering the right services as the world changes around us. It should help you decide what not to do. Are your new products or services are relevant to your purpose at all? You know, as the world changes, things may need to be dropped out of your proposition. If not, should you really be doing them, or should you be starting them up as a new offering? It should be truly authentic to your business. You can't copy someone else's purpose. And I say this to lots of people. We often get asked, oh, can we just have a look at yours so we can use it as a template? Template is great. You just can't copy. It's somebody else in your industry who's got a purpose that you like. You can't steal it. It just doesn't work like that. You do have to go through the process of drawing this out of what's specific to your business. Purpose should be something that you can really live into, and it can fall down if it doesn't sound authentic. And you'll know what these sound like. You'll see some businesses where it just sounds clunky or it doesn't sound true to what they're doing. And that's where they haven't really done the hard work in building this purpose up. So here are some examples of purpose statements. Let's have another look. We've got Tesla there. So Tesla's is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Notice how their purpose doesn't actually mention vehicles at all. And this opens Tesla up to other opportunities in the sustainable energy industry. It allows them to be really broad in what they're going to go out and do. And it allows them to also be agile so that they can flex to whatever is happening in the outside world. And that may not involve cars. So Netflix, purpose is to entertain the world. It doesn't tell you anything about streaming services. And having a purpose like that allowed them to go into making content as well as streaming it without being outside of their purpose. Zooms, to make video communications frictionless and secure. So you can really see how these purpose statements sit well with brands like this. You can also see how they'd be inspiring for their team, that they're going to be valid in 100 years, they're not specific to products. And it also helps those people working within these companies think about what they could be doing, help them decide what they shouldn't be doing, and keeps them really authentic to the business. So the third cornerstone of culture is your core values. These are timeless guiding principles that speak from the heart of your business. Your core values are almost like a set of fundamental rules of engagement for you and for your team and for your customers. And so they really help you to be able to come back to what it is that sits right at the heart of your business. They're really, really powerful. Core values are extremely powerful. And I think it's quite easy to see people bandying these around. You sometimes see them written up on walls in businesses. And to think that perhaps they can become a little bit tired, or that they're not always as useful as they are. Maybe they're just lip service. And it's really important to recognize that there has to be that connection with these core values. They're meant to act as decision-making filters. So if a possible decision doesn't align with your core values, you should consider other options which do fit in. And that's how we use core values in our business, and how useful we found them is that when you're faced with a decision to make, and it might be something like, do we want to offer this new service? Or it may be even, do we want to work with this sort of supplier? Coming back to your core values and saying, does it fit with what we've said sits at the heart of our business, it makes it so easy to make the right decision from those points because you come back to these core values. Numerous studies show that core values are a key driver of team engagement as well. So data tells us this equates to less sick leave, lower team turnover and less time spent recruiting, less rework, better communication, higher innovation, higher productivity, and fundamentally higher profitability. And you know, if we're going to come down to the brass tacks of it, doing work on your core values ends up with more money in your pocket as a business owner. And that's why it's really important that we focus in on doing this work. It probably falls into what often is termed as our second quadrant, if you're used to looking at our achiever matrix. In that second quadrant is work that's urgent, that's not urgent but important. So really, really important work, but doesn't always get into our very busy things we've got to do today. And so it's important that we step back and spend a little bit of time on the core values, because it helps us to deal with that urgent and important work that sits in quadrant 1. It makes it easier to make decisions. It makes us better at getting through those things that can become sticking points in our business. Your core values can be used to resolve conflict as well. Are both parties to the conflict living into your core values? And what we mean by that is really embodying them. You can use your core values to guide desired behavior and come up with a resolution. So you can refer back to your core values and say, it doesn't look like you're living into one of these values when you talk like that. So how can we help you to really bring that into the way that we can resolve this conflict you've got? Your core values are the heart of your identity. So let's take a closer look at what I mean by this. Let me introduce you to the identity iceberg. I love this model. I think it's really, really helpful. It demonstrates the impact our values have on our actions and our behaviors. So above the surface, we've got our actions and they are visible, but these are simply the tip of the iceberg. These are the things that you can see a business doing. Our values are demonstrated by our behavior, and our identity is deep beneath the surface. Immediately beneath the surface are our habits, and these habits are driven by our thinking, which is influenced by our beliefs. And as we move towards the bottom of the iceberg, our values, and these are all driven by our identity. And you can see we've got this sort of hierarchy going up. So as a business, we need to delve deep below the surface to capture the values that reflect our identity, that's our brand, and bring those up to the surface so that we can consciously allow them to influence the behavior that we want to be able to see. Each of your core values needs a clear definition. Everyone understands what they mean. So here's our recommended process for you to derive and clearly define your core values. Firstly, you need to allocate some uninterrupted time to this process, which should take half a day. When we did this in our business, we actually broke that up into a couple of half-day sessions because we had a team of, I think at the time we were probably 9. So we actually all came away from our desks, we sat in a different room, and we spent some real time digging down into it. If you're a smaller team or just on your own in your business, you still need to block out the time in your diary to do this. And I would suggest going somewhere that isn't your usual desk space. So it may be right now ideal, get outside, go and sit somewhere in nature, somewhere that's green, so that you can really be creative about what you're doing with your core values. It's really useful to use an experienced facilitator to guide the process, and that ensures that everyone's point of view is heard. If you've got some quieter people in your team, you really want to make sure that they feel safe to be able to speak out about what their values are. And you want to make sure that you don't let anyone dominate the outcome, so that you get your values skewed towards those stronger personalities in your team. And a facilitator can really make sure that everybody gets heard. The brainstorming process identifies all of your potential values that may feature in your core values or their definitions. So it's really helpful to do a big brain dump at that stage. We did this using big flip charts and post-it notes, and then we put all of our thoughts onto post-it notes and stuck them up around the room. We had a really like a physical brainstorming session. It was so nice to be able to see it up on big walls. You can just do this using those big post-its that you can tear off the wall if you've come across those, or you could lay them all out on a big table if that would help for you. You need to stick to a limit of no more than 6 core values. Often people say 5, we've got 6 in our business, so I say 6, but you don't want to have more than that. And they should then be distilled into 1 to 3 words each, so they're really punchy. The next thing you do is define each core value using no more than 10 words for each definition. Again, you'll find I might have broken my rules slightly. I'm going to show you our core values after this slide. And what we did with our team is we came up with the core value, and then we said, well, how does that look? What does that mean in everyday work? How does that come across when we talk to customers? And we came up with sort of 3 to 5 little phrases that sit underneath our core values to really articulate it. And I'll show you those in a second, so show you what I mean. You need to ensure they're relevant to you as the business owner, and to your team and to your clients. So making sure that they work, or that sort of explanation works from all of those different focal points. And the best way to do that is to practice using them. So to talk about them, to speak with your customers about them, to try them out. And that process, we spent a little bit of time, maybe 6 months, sort of sitting with how we described them until we sort of crystallized it. You might want to just try saying them to a trusted friend or advisor, somebody that you know is going to give you really useful feedback, positive feedback, above the board feedback, if you know what we mean about the Orbed model, where we talk about being above the line or below the line, somebody that's really on your side. And of course, your accountant may be a good person to talk to about those things. And the last point I've got here sounds a bit weird: avoid hygiene values. And what we mean by that is values that you would just expect a business to have. So for us, a hygiene value would be something like honest. Now, if your accountant's not honest, you've probably got the wrong accountant. So those kind of hygiene values are things that you definitely don't want to be putting into your core values. And again, it's quite easy to get drawn into those if you're doing this project just with your team and you're having a slightly insular view. If everybody's come from the same industry, really helpful to go out to somebody outside your industry or a potential client base and just check that there aren't hygiene values sneaking into your core values. If you've got some of these already written and you wanted to have a friendly ear to listen through, me or Richard, very happy just to say, yeah, that sounds great, or no, I think you could probably just tweak this and make it a bit punchier. So those are my top tips for deriving your core values. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like in our business, here are our value posters. So we had these made up into big A2 posters, and we also got them made up into postcards. So we have a set of postcards for our values, and they're just normal postcards on the back with our core values on the front, and we use those to correspond with clients. We keep them on our desks so that we can refer back to them. When we're back in meeting rooms, we'll keep them on the meeting room table so that if there's something that's going on that feels like it's not sitting within our values, we can just refer back to our cards and say, don't forget, we need to remember, for example, this one is here to help, that our job as accountants at Panthera is to help our clients. So as an example, on this particular core value, the here to help is the value. And the explanation for that is we work for and with our clients. We always look for solutions to problems. If we don't have the answer, we'll help to find it or someone who does. And so those 3 phrases help us to explain what that core value means to our team members. It helps us to explain to our customers what it means when we say we're here to help, what that means for them. And it also helps us if we're having conversations with suppliers about how we expect our customers to be interacted with. You know, if a supplier, for example, is saying to one of our customers, we can't do that, we can go back to that supplier and say, that's not how we talk at Panthera. What we would say is, we can't do that, but we'll help you find someone that can, or we're going to come back to you with a solution. So it just helps to make sure that the culture, the Panthera culture, is being used throughout all of our interactions, or interactions that are happening on our behalf with customers and with the wider business world. We found that putting these onto cards was really helpful. So it's one thing having your values and getting them in your head, but actually committing them to paper creates something a lot more tangible from your values, and it then allows you to use them as collateral in your business as well, to be able to then say to people, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what's important to us. And by putting them out on social media, by sharing them with people around you, and by using them on a regular basis, you get to really embody those values on a day-to-day basis. And another way that we do that in Panthera is that we ask team members to share these core values in our Monday morning meeting. So one member of the team will open up that meeting by sharing one of these values and explaining what it means for them. And we also like to refer back to them. So if we've seen something that's gone on within the team, for example, the working together value we've got there, if we've seen some really nice working together that's happened in the team, it allows us to then praise those members of staff for doing that and to bring that up as an important part of our culture so that it gets reinforced as really good behaviour. And that can be very helpful for bringing the team together, because we all know we're working to the same measurements. You know, we're all expecting these 6 core values to be shown in the way that we work. And if anybody wants to have more of a conversation about those or wants to see copies of our core values, we'll be really happy to share those. I know Richard's put some links in, and we'll also give you a link to a Google Drive folder, which will have the workbook from today, along with some pictures of our core values and our vision statement, so that you guys can see those all together. So these cornerstones of culture, we've talked about vision, we've talked about purpose, and we've talked about core values. They can all be pulled together to create a culture card. I referenced this right at the beginning. Your culture card brings alignment of behaviour and energy to create a workplace where everyone is comfortable and happy in how they contribute to the overall success of the business. Having a culture card front of mind in your organisation as a constant reminder of business expectations and aspirations. So if you provide a copy of a culture card to each team member, it means that everyone understands and then is able to recite your vision, purpose and values, keeps it right at the front of their minds. So how do you bring your culture to life? Here's a simple but effective process. So first, after finalising your vision, purpose and core values, create your culture card and share it with your team. We've got a culture card template we can provide you, which is going to give you a starting point. It's very basic, but it just gives you a little bit of structure. And we recommend getting that professionally designed if you don't have design resources in-house, or you may want to use something like Canva, which is our preferred way of putting together a nice template for these kind of things. And all of those core value cards that I've just shown you, we've designed all of those on Canva and then just took them out to Moo for printing. There are other ways you can print, but it's a really simple way of getting some collateral printed up. I would say it's better to get something down and onto a bit of paper than to have nothing there at all. So don't worry about it being perfect. It's just your first iteration of these things. So get something put together if you don't have the funds to put it out to design, and you're not quite sure about how to make that look good yourself. You may be able to put in a favour or ask someone just to have a little look over it, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just really good to have a first stab at it. Ensure your team or those people around you that are working with you have committed the culture card to memory, and then promote them on your website, use them in your marketing, and make sure that you talk about them in your social media. Ensure your vision, purpose and values are highly visible within your workplace. Displaying your culture card is a really great way to do that. And I've talked about, leaving them on your meeting room tables, having them on your desk so that you can regularly have a look in and reconnect with those things. The reason I say don't worry about it being perfect is I'm going to suggest that you review them annually. And that's so that you can ensure that they're still 100% relevant to your business, but it also means that new team members can understand how they came about and refresh the whole team on the importance of them. So if you're feeling like that culture slipped a little bit, and I think over the last 18 months or so, where we've been locked down or working from home a lot of clients have come to me saying, it's just difficult to keep my culture really fresh and at the front of people's minds because we're not in the same room together. Then reviewing your core values, your vision and your purpose with your team is a really good way of bringing that back together again. Another sort of tip that might work nicely for you is if you've got a team and you've not been able to see each other for a while and you're starting to think about seeing each other face to face, it'd be a really great way to spend perhaps half a day or a day together talking about your culture, getting all of this stuff together again, and really bringing a bit more spark into the way that you interact. And it would be a really nice way to kind of get yourself set up for the reopening that's going on. So here's an example of our culture card. This is a really simple mock-up, again, just done on Canva, and it's so straightforward and easy to see this all in one place. So we've got our vision on there: create a world where small business owners thrive. We've got our purpose, and you can see with our purpose in here, I've just bolded out the really key bits, the key words in our purpose. So it's to help our clients to thrive so that they can achieve their goals. And then with our values, just the headlines from those value cards: here to help, details matter, working together, respect time, make it clear, and build sustainable businesses. And we just keep ourselves right at the very heart of that. So where those things all interact, that's where Panthera lives. And that culture card really helps us to just very quickly at a glance reconnect with what it is, what our why is, and why we're here in business. Okay, so my aim is to help you to take what you've learned today, what we've shared, and I know I've whistled through something that we would normally spend a good half a day to a day on, but it's to help you to implement some positive change in your business right now. So to do something with what you've learned. I always say it's great to come on the webinar, but it doesn't really make any difference unless you do something with what you've learned. So what are your next steps from here? Make the choice to improve the culture of your business today. So you need to make that choice right now. Put a line in the sand. You're taking the first positive steps towards improving your results. If you've already got a vision, purpose, and your core values, decide whether or not you need to review them. Are they up to date? Are they still relevant? Do they fit into that model that we've shown you? Are there some places you can tweak them? If you don't have them in place, then that's absolutely fine. Work out the best way to create them. Now you've got some model to how that looks. When are you going to do that? How are you going to find the time to put aside to make that happen? And once you've developed them, ensure they're visible, that you're living into them, and that they're clear to your team and to your customers. These are all things you can do. Don't focus on the things that are out of your control. And there's a lot of that at the moment. And this is partly why we chose to do this particular webinar right at the moment. It does feel like there's quite a lot of stuff that we still don't have control over, but the culture in your business, that's right down to you. And you definitely can make a change right from now about how that's communicated and how that's shared out. And of course, if you need any help from us, we're here for you. And we really do want to help as many people as we can, clients and non-clients alike. So how can we help you? We can help you create a business plan, and your core values go into part of this. We can spend some time on core values development, and these are two quite big projecty pieces of work that we do with clients. And the business plan we charge at £1,250 plus VAT for the project, and the core values development £975 plus VAT. And we do those for people that aren't clients as well as those that are clients. But we always like to offer you some free options as well. We're about sharing as much as we possibly can with our business community. So you can have that golden circle worksheet, an absolute freebie. It gives you that golden worksheet, golden circle model, and then it gives you a number of questions for you to answer to really get you starting to think about your why. So it'll help you formulate that part. We can also do a complimentary meeting. Always happy to meet with people to talk through some of the issues that we've brought up today. And we do 20-minute complimentary Zoom meetings. And we can organise that if you just drop us a message, and we're more than happy to get something into the diary. Business planning, the reason that's at the top of there, it's a fundamental framework for improving your culture. And so if you've got that business plan sitting underneath, we can help to clarify your vision, your purpose, your values, and we go right through to planning, goal alignment with your team, that kind of work. So if you're not quite ready to commit to any of those, go for those freebies. We're really happy to share them. And of course, if you're not sure of the best way forward with your business, let's do a complimentary meeting. We can talk it through. So we've got to the end of the webinar. I've rattled through an awful lot of information. So I'm just going to pass over to Richard to see if we've got any questions that have come through in the chat, and we'll see if we can answer some of those for you.
That was great. Thank you very much, Tori. So just a reminder to everybody, there's a Q&A at the bottom of the screen. If you click that, you can submit any questions. We have got a couple to start off with, Tori. The first one that we've got is, I did some work on core values when I started my business a couple of years ago. How often would you revisit and change them?
Yeah, okay, so this probably came in just a little bit before that, the sort of end of the webinar. We talked about doing an annual review of your core values, and it may be that annually is enough for you, but I have found people more recently feeling like it's time to do that slightly more often, partly because things have changed so much, or perhaps when they first set their purpose and their vision, they didn't adhere to that point. Do you remember the point about, will it be relevant in 100 years time? And I very often see those purpose statements being too rooted in what you're doing right now. So that might be something like, I don't know, I've seen a vision statement that says something like making sure that Microsoft Office is rolled out perfectly for small businesses. And then that IT company decides to go and partner with Google. So their purpose is way too connected to what they're doing at the moment, and they need to pull that apart and start again. So if you feel like your vision, your purpose and your values were perhaps created without adherence to those rules that we first set, or that they are too rooted in something that was in the past before the pandemic, perhaps, where things have changed. You know, if, for example, you were in events planning and you wrote your purpose to be particularly connected to in-person events, then the last 18 months has been a very different kind of business world for you. And it may be that your purpose needs to come further away to something more like connecting people rather than making people meet up in places, in specific places. So it's those kind of changes that might be useful. But if you don't feel you've got to do that, it's at least annually. And the reason being is that we change, right? As business owners, we grow and we develop. And where we thought we were 5 years ago, maybe a very different sort of person to where we are now. And the things that we thought perhaps were important back then may have changed as well. So it's possible that you might come in and have a review of those vision, purpose and values and go, they're spot on, they're exactly where I want them to be. But you may also feel like they just don't quite hit the bell. You know, they're not quite me. Or when we wrote them, we were copying a template, or we were doing what a competitor was doing, so that we did what we thought we should be saying. You know, where you're in an industry perhaps that does things a certain way, you sometimes find that the values all sort of replicate each other. And it's really good to come back and say, is that still us? Does it sound like us? Does it feel authentic? So definitely you should be reviewing them at least once a year and getting a bit of outside input on that too. I mean, reach out to your customers and say, does this sound like us? Is this how we work? Do we live into our values? I think that's really useful feedback to have.
Great, thank you, Tori. Another question that's come in is, everybody is different and has slightly different sets of values. How can you get staff to uphold your core values if they don't believe in them?
Yeah, okay, it's a really good question, and that's absolutely true. Teams don't all have exactly the same values. I mean, it would be really boring if we were all cookie cutter employees. I always think of it a bit like one of those Venn diagrams. So when you're thinking about doing your core values work with a team, and I think it's really important you do this with your team. You don't say, I lead this and here are the values and I'm handing them down to you. I don't think that works. I think you need to get the people in your business involved in this process. I think of it like a Venn diagram. So all of the people in your business are those circles, and they overlay. And the place that your core values sit is where the most of the circles overlay the most of the time. And so when you're thinking about bringing this stuff together, you should have found values that all of the people in your team agree with. And if there are some outliers, and there are outliers in a very strong way, perhaps they're not the right people in your business. that's quite a difficult thought sometimes. So if you're finding that you've got people who really aren't aligned, or that the people in your team don't believe in them, there are a couple of reasons for that. Either you've not articulated them well enough so that they don't see how it's relevant to them, or they're the wrong people. Oh, sorry, there are three options. Or you haven't got your core values right, which is a possibility. But assuming you've gone through the process that we've just outlined and you've done it with the people in your team together, you should have found core values that everybody can agree on. And that's the sort of thing that if you're coming up against that, we'd really happily like jump on a call, talk you through what it is about that particular core values that you're struggling with. It's really helpful to have an outside ear to say, either it's you as the business owner who's got this wrong, or it's them. And sometimes an outsider can really help you get some clarity on that. If you're a member of a mastermind, if you're in some kind of business support group, great place to take a question like, here's my core value, here's where this person is, where are we going wrong? What haven't I done right? What haven't I articulated right? I always believe as leaders, if you've got that kind of issue where you feel like there's a values difference, it's absolutely on your shoulders to make sure that you've done everything you can to take it to that person in your team and give them every opportunity to show how they can live into that value. If you've done the work of kind of digging into the values, explaining what they mean, and making sure that they sit correctly, then it's probably not the value that's wrong. It's probably something going on with the person in your team. And you just need to dig into it, ask some difficult questions, you know, why? So if we took, as an example, one of ours is here, details matter. Now, if I had somebody in my team who consistently didn't think that details mattered, we'd dig into that. We'd say, you know, what's going on there? Why are you not being detail orientated about this particular thing? Why aren't you taking more care? And to see if we could get to the underlying reason, because when we wrote these, we all agreed, the whole team agreed that details mattered to us. And what that leads into is when you're recruiting, if you've got them on your cards, you know where you're starting from. You've already got a sort of a blueprint for the sorts of people you want to fit into your culture, because if somebody turns up for interview and they're clearly not details orientated, or they don't care enough about details, they're not going to fit into our culture. They may fit somewhere else, not a problem. It's not that they're bad people, it's just that they don't fit into the values that you're looking for. And it helps you to make that decision so much more easily.
Great, thank you. And one other question is, where did you get your core values postcards made?
Oh yeah, from Moo. So that's Moo Print, MOO. And if you use Canva, so Canva's an app for creating all sorts of infographics, documents, posters and cards. You can print directly through Canva and they'll send it straight off to a printer, but I specifically wanted a backing to my card. So I have a backing with our address and our logo on it. And so I took those out to Moo, and you can get discounts on that. You're probably, if you're a business owner, you've probably been bombarded by their very good marketing. They send stuff all over the place, but they'll also send you a sample pack of stationery, so you can feel the quality of it. And for me, I'm a sensory sort of person, and knowing that it was going to be on good quality stock and that the matte covering on the front was how I wanted it to be was really important. So it's definitely worth asking them to send you a little paper pack, and then you can get your hands on it. And you may have had other cards, business cards printed up by them. They can do all sorts of really exciting stuff. You can make them on really thick, heavy duty cards so that they last for ages and ages. If you're going to have them out on meeting tables, you might want to have them on quite good quality card. And then you can have a really good play around, and they've got templates and stuff like that for putting those together. But I would definitely get some collateral that you can tangibly have on your desk, rather than just having them tucked away in a folder structure somewhere on a laptop where you're not going to look at them quite so often. And you know, I'm a bit of a sustainability freak, and I'm always talking about going paperless. This is one place where I go against that rule, and I say, actually, it's a useful thing to have so that you can see them on your desk every single day.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tori. There's no more questions.
Fab. All right. Thanks, Richard. That's really helpful. So as always, there's going to be some stuff for you guys after the webinar. We'll make sure that you've got a link to that And if you've got any other questions, feel free to drop us an email or to ask for one of those complimentary meetings. We're really happy to talk to people about this core values piece. It's really helpful that we've done it in our business so we can see the effect that it has, and we can talk you through what we've done, and we can help you through some of that decision making. There is a short survey when you leave the webinar, so if you wouldn't mind just clicking through, it's only got, I think, 4 questions on it, and they're all sort of geared towards the things that you can do next. And if you'd like a copy of that golden circle worksheet, if you just drop your email into the bottom of that survey, and we'll make sure that one gets sent out to you. So I think that's everything on the questions. I always have a parting thought. So before we go, I thought I'd just share this quote with you, which is, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. I always like to remind people to do something after a webinar. So make a simple plan, commit to 3 actions you're going to take as a result of what you've heard from me and from Richard today. Write them down. And if you write them down right now before you go and get your lunch or you get onto a call, you won't forget to do it, and give each of them an owner and a completion date. We do this throughout our business. If you can give, even if it's just you and your business, you just put your name against it and when you're going to do it by, and it allows you to stay accountable to those things that you said you're going to do. Remember, if you need our support, we're here to help. So thanks for making the time to attend the webinar. I really appreciate you giving up your time, especially on such a sunny day like today. Don't forget that exit survey. And if you can let us know about other webinar topics that you'd be interested in, it's very helpful for us to know what sort of information people are looking for so that we can make sure we get that out to you. We hope we've given you plenty of ideas to ponder and some clear next steps for you and your business. Thanks very much, guys.